Prologue. The last thing I expected to feel as I died was gratitude. Hatred, perhaps. Regret. Bitterness. But not gratitude. My body was growing cold. Voices drifted around me. Someone was crying. Someone was begging me to stay. It was too late. As darkness closed in, my life flashed before my eyes. Not the happy moments. Not the celebrations. Not even the people I loved. I saw him. The man who ruined my life. The man I had cursed 1,000 times in my heart. The man I blamed for everything. Yet, as my final breath lingered, a cruel truth settled over me. Had he never entered my life, I would never have known the man I loved. I would never have known heartbreak. I would never have known the child I was leaving behind. A tear slipped down my face. Funny, even at the end, I still did not know whether to thank him or curse him. How did it come to this? How did the daughter of Lord Chike Savage, former beta of Moonfang Pack, end up dying alone and broken? The answer began years earlier, with a marriage proposal. My father wanted me to marry a man I did not want. I refused. I fought him. I chose another instead. A man I loved. A man the entire pack admired. I thought I had won. I thought I had secured the future I deserved. I was wrong. Because on the night I married the man of my dreams, I woke beside the man I had rejected. And from that moment onward, fate never gave me peace again. Chapter 1. The first time I saw him that day, I walked right past him. So did everyone else. He was seated beneath a shade tree near the western courtyard, surrounded by children. One little boy tugged at his sleeve, while another climbed onto the bench beside him. The prince listened patiently, as though their childish chatter was a matter before the council. No guards, no attendants, no nobles seeking favor. Just children. A pair of servants passed with laundry baskets and did not bow. Young warriors crossed the courtyard, laughing as one glanced his way before moving on. The prince paid them no mind. Neither did I. At the time, he was no more important to me than the trees lining the path. My attention was fixed elsewhere. I was Eliara Savage, daughter of Lord Chike Savage, former beta of Moonfang Pack. I was young, admired, and entering my prime. Every gathering became a contest the moment I arrived. Mothers measured their daughters against me. Young she-wolves envied me. Unmated wolves sought my attention. I was educated, noble-born, and blessed with a future most could only dream of. Suitors came constantly, sons of merchants, sons of warriors, sons of nobles, even distant heirs from neighboring packs. I rejected them all. Then he came. Unlike the others, I did not reject him. Why would I? He was everything a young she-wolf was taught to desire. Handsome, powerful, confident, born of alpha blood, admired wherever he went. When he entered a room, heads turned. When he spoke, people listened. When he smiled at me for the first time, I was lost. For the first time in my life, I stopped looking for reasons to say no. When he finally asked for my hand, I accepted before caution could find me. I thought my future had begun. I had no idea my troubles were only waking. My mother rejoiced when I told her. She clasped my hands, kissed my brow, and whispered that the moon had finally favored House Savage. He promised to seek my father's blessing before the next council moon. That was when my delight began to dim. My father loved me. Of that I had never doubted. But he was old, stubborn, and bound to duties older than my birth. As I ripened into womanhood, he had never hidden the match he desired for me. And it was not the man I had chosen. It was the forgotten heir, the firstborn son of the late Alpha, the prince no maiden prayed for. The man mothers quietly drew their daughters away from whenever he crossed the courtyard. They said he had alpha blood, but no alpha soul. They said he hid behind books, maids, old women, and children whenever danger stirred. They said the only battles he fought were with dust-covered scrolls in his dead mother's study. All day he wandered between the library, the herb gardens, and the nursery yards, wasting broad shoulders and royal blood on useless tenderness. A prince by birth, a mockery by reputation. That was the man my father wanted for me. People often called him a waste of flesh. Cruel words, yet few ever challenged them. Strangely, it was not because he was unpleasant to behold. He stood taller than most warriors, broad of shoulder and strong of limb, built as though the moon goddess had fashioned him for war. Had he carried himself with even half the confidence expected of an alpha, many maidens might have looked upon him differently. Instead, he drifted through life like a ghost, haunting his own birthright. My fiancé sought my father's blessing soon after our courtship began. My father refused him. The refusal shocked the clan. My mother pleaded. My aunts pleaded. The elders came. Even my brother tried to reason with him. Yet my father would not yield. Soon, the matter became the talk of Moonfang. Why would Lord Cheke Savage deny his daughter a future beside the most admired wolf in the pack? Why would he insist upon binding me to that creature? Forgive me. Death has a way of making one honest. Those were my thoughts then. I looked upon the firstborn heir and saw a man utterly devoid of worth. A prince who inspired neither fear nor respect. A wolf who could not command his own servants. A man content to surrender everything that should have been his. To me, he was spineless, weak, a disgrace to the blood of alphas. Even children mocked him openly. And he endured it. That was what disgusted me most. Not the ridicule, not the whispers, not the insults. The fact that he bore them without protest. As far as I was concerned, a man who would not fight for his honor did not deserve honor at all. No family sought alliance with him. No father dreamed of calling him son-in-law. Servants brushed past him as though he were part of the furniture, and he never demanded respect. He seemed to accept his place, as though he agreed with the judgment everyone had passed upon him. That was why many of us said Moonfang Pack had two alphas, one by blood, the other by right. One carried the title, the other carried the loyalty of the people. And if anyone in Moonfang had been asked who the true alpha was, the answer would have come without hesitation. Jabari. Warriors admired him. Elders praised him. The people trusted him. When disputes arose, it was Jabari they sought. When rogues threatened the borders, it was Jabari who rode out. When festivals were held, it was Jabari who stood at the center of every celebration. He possessed everything the firstborn lacked: confidence, strength, charm, presence. A room changed when Jabari entered it. People stood straighter, faces brightened, conversations shifted toward him as naturally as flowers turn toward sunlight. And somehow, among all those people, he noticed me. Not as Lord Cheke Savage's daughter, not as a prize to be won. At least, that was what I believed then. He remembered the smallest things. A favorite flower, a passing remark, a story I had mentioned only once. He listened when I spoke. He sought my company when he could have chosen anyone else. When he looked at me, I felt seen. When he smiled at me, I felt chosen. For the first time in my life, I was not merely admired. I was cherished, or so I thought. Looking back now, I sometimes wonder whether I fell in love with the man he was, or the man he wanted me to see. That was my chosen husband, the man my father refused. In my eyes, there was no better match in all of Moonfang Pack. Jabari was strong, successful, admired, and born of pure alpha blood. The only cruelty fate had dealt him was placing him second in the line of birth. He held the pack together, while the firstborn drifted through life, like a burden no one knew where to place. Yet my father rejected Jabari and asked me to bind myself to the man we called Alpha, by blood only. Useless. That was the word many used. I used it too. Of course, I fought. My mother stood with me. My brother stood with me. Even our clan elders believed my father had gone too far. If I married Jabari, I would become Luna in truth. If I married the firstborn, I would become nothing more than the wife of a forgotten title. My father begged me with all the love he had, but I refused him. I told him I would never marry the man he had chosen. I would never acknowledge that man as my alpha, not even in name. In the end, I said the one thing no daughter should ever say to a loving father. I threatened to take my own life if he refused to bless my bond. That broke him. My father gave his consent, and once he did, Jabari courted me openly. I became the envy of every she-wolf in Moonfang. I was happy, radiant, untouchable. Jabari made certain of it. He gave me attention without measure, sweet confessions beneath moonlit balconies, gifts wrapped in silk, and promises that sounded like forever. For a little while, I believed I had won. The wedding chamber had been prepared long before sunset. Candles burned upon silver stands. Fresh flowers filled the room with fragrance. The servants had spared no effort. I remember the nervous excitement that followed me through those final hours. At last, I would belong to Jabari. At last, all the dreams I had built around our future would begin. How foolish I was. I did give myself that night, but not to the man I believed I had married. To this day, I cannot fully explain how it happened. I remember darkness. I remember exhaustion. Then I remember dawn. Golden light spilled through the chamber windows. Slowly, I opened my eyes. At first, I thought nothing was amiss. Then I saw him, a half-crescent birthmark near his breastbone. I knew that mark. Every wolf in Moonfang knew it. My blood turned cold. That was not my husband. That was the firstborn heir. The very man I had spent years mocking and avoiding. The man I wanted nothing to do with. My scream shattered the silence. His eyes opened immediately. For a brief moment, we simply stared at one another. I expected shock, confusion, some explanation. Instead, he rose from the bed without a word, calmly, methodically. He dressed himself. Then he crossed the chamber and threw open the windows. The morning breeze swept inside. Next came the incense. Then my perfumes, one after another. In my panic, I did not understand what he was doing. Not at first. Then realization struck. He was masking scents, erasing traces, removing every sign that he had ever been there. My heart hammered against my ribs. Still, he never looked at me. Not once. Not a single glance. Not a single apology. Not a single explanation. It was as though I did not exist. As though the entire night had never happened. When he finished, he walked toward the door. I waited. For anything. One word, one answer, one reason. None came. The door closed behind him, and just like that, he was gone. At the time, I believed he had merely walked out of my bedchamber. Much later, I would realize he had walked out of far more than that. Chapter 2. Morning came. The palace stirred to life. Servants hurried through corridors. Courtiers gathered for the day's affairs. Somewhere beyond my chamber, life carried on as though nothing had happened. Yet inside that room, my world had shattered. I wept until my eyes burned. My maids tried to comfort me. My attendants hovered helplessly around me. Nothing helped. Word soon reached my husband. Jabari came at once. Concern clouded his face the moment he saw me. He knelt before me, took my hands, and begged me to tell him what troubled me. When I refused, he blamed himself. He thought my tears were born from disappointment. He believed I was hurt because he had not come to my chamber on our mating night. The guilt nearly crushed me. The more he apologized, the worse I felt. He promised to make it right. Promised that we had a lifetime ahead of us. Promised that one missed night could never diminish his love. I could barely look at him. Soon healers arrived. Then friends. Then concerned relatives. Each asked the same question. What was wrong with their Luna? I gave none of them an answer. How could I? What words could possibly explain the horror lodged inside my chest? Days passed. The whispers spread. The palace began to speculate. Some feared illness. Others feared an omen. Eventually, I forced myself to smile again. I attended meals. I greeted visitors. I resumed the duties expected of me. Outwardly, I returned to myself. Inwardly, I was living a lie. The memory refused to leave me. Not because of scandal, not because of fear, but because something about that night would not settle inside my mind. Every version of the story I had been taught about the forgotten heir clashed with what I remembered. The man I encountered that night had not seemed frightened. He had not seemed desperate. He had not seemed like a fool. Most disturbing of all, he had looked at the disaster before him with a calmness I could neither understand nor forget. That memory lingered, and no matter how hard I tried, it followed me into every waking hour, like a shadow that refused to be left behind. My husband never stopped caring for me. If anything, he became even more attentive. He brought gifts, sent flowers to my chambers, spent hours trying to coax smiles from me. The guilt grew heavier with each passing day. At last, I made a decision. What had happened that night would remain my secret. No one knew, no one needed to know, especially not Jabari. I buried it as deeply as I could. I also made another vow. Never again would I sleep in darkness. Every evening, I ordered the maids to leave the lamps burning throughout the night. They found the request strange, but none dared question me. Gradually, I began to resemble my old self. Jabari noticed immediately. The relief on his face was unmistakable. To celebrate my recovery, he hosted a feast. The great hall glittered with candlelight. Musicians filled the air with lively melodies, while noble families gathered beneath the banners of Moonfang. There was food enough to feed half the kingdom, and wine enough to loosen even the stiffest elder's tongue. For the first time since the wedding, laughter returned to my lips. I danced, I smiled. I allowed myself to believe the worst was behind me. Jabari seemed happier than anyone. More than once, I caught him watching me with relief in his eyes. And for a while, life returned to normal. Or at least it appeared to. 2 weeks passed. Then one evening, my husband came to my chambers. The moment I saw him, I knew. This night had finally arrived. I had been expecting it, preparing for it, dreading it, yet hoping for it all the same. After all, he was my husband, the man I had chosen, the man I loved. Surely, if I could put that terrible morning behind me, everything else would fall back into place. My husband asked for the lamps to be extinguished. I refused. The answer left my lips more sharply than intended. Jabari paused, surprised, but being ever patient with me, he simply nodded and accommodated my preference. The lamps remained lit. Their golden glow chased away every shadow in the chamber. I should have felt relieved. Instead, I felt afraid. This was supposed to have been our first true night together. Before our bonding, we had spoken of it often. We had dreamed of it. We had promised one another that when the time came, we would hold nothing back. I wanted that. I truly did. I wanted to give myself fully to my husband. Yet when the moment arrived, I found myself retreating. Not physically, at first, but somewhere inside. My body was present, my thoughts were not. Memories crowded my mind. The wedding night, the confusion, the overwhelming intensity of it, the mating, the startling discovery of feelings and sensations I had never known existed. No gossip shared among maidens had prepared me for that night. No whispered advice from married women, no lessons from elder matrons. I had awakened the next morning changed in ways I did not fully understand. And now those memories stood between me and my husband. Jabari tried, moon goddess, he tried, but I could not meet him halfway. The more I struggled to focus on him, the more my mind betrayed me. Eventually he grew quiet. I caught the strange look in his eyes, disappointment, confusion, perhaps even hurt. The night ended badly. The following night proved worse. I had spent the entire day convincing myself that I would do better, that I would put the past behind me, that everything would return to normal. Instead, I found myself shrinking away from his touch. Not deliberately, not out of malice. My body simply reacted before my mind could stop it. And this time, Jabari noticed. I knew he did. The silence between us became unbearable. Hot tears slipped down my cheeks. I turned my face away, ashamed of myself, ashamed of what I was doing to the man I loved. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Then Jabari rose from the bed. Unlike before, he did not comfort me. We did not ask what was wrong. He did not promise patience. He simply walked out. The door closed behind him. I remained there alone, disgusted with myself. And for the first time, another feeling began to take root beneath the guilt. Betrayal. I did not yet understand why, but something inside me had begun to fracture. He did not return the third night, nor the night after. At first, I told myself he merely needed time. Then, I began noticing other things, small things. The way his smile no longer reached his eyes, the way conversations ended more quickly than before, the way irritation flashed across his face whenever he thought I was not looking. Nothing had changed enough for others to notice, but I noticed. I feared a distance was growing between us. Whenever I sought him out, he seemed distracted or impatient. More than once, I retreated before I could even finish what I wished to say. I did not know what to do. I knew Jabari loved me. Of that, I was certain. But he was also a proud man, and I had wounded that pride. The realization tormented me. For days, I argued with myself. Then at last, I gathered my courage. If there was a rift between us, I would mend it. I found him one evening along the western passage overlooking the inner courtyard. My heart hammered so fiercely I feared he might hear it. I nearly turned back. Instead, I forced myself forward. "May I come to your chambers tonight?" I asked. For a moment, he simply stared at me. Then something bright sparked in his eyes. Hope, relief, perhaps even triumph. Whatever it was, it appeared and vanished so quickly I almost thought I imagined it. "You may," he said. The answer came without hesitation. And for the first time in many days, I allowed myself to believe everything would be well again. I did not know then that I was walking toward the beginning of a different nightmare. I spent the entire day preparing myself. Not for my husband, for my own conscience. Every corridor I walked, every mirror I passed, every quiet moment alone became another opportunity to curse that man beneath my breath. Quietly, of course. Were anyone to hear me, questions would follow. And questions were dangerous. By then, muttering insults at the forgotten prince had become a habit of its own. A foolish one. But habits are difficult things to break. I soaked in a steaming bath scented with herbs and rose petals. My maids brushed my hair until it shone and dressed me in a silk nightgown fit for a Luna. When they finished, I dismissed them. Before leaving my chambers, I poured myself a small measure of schnapps. Not enough to cloud my senses, just enough to steady my nerves. I drank it slowly, then another half measure. By the time I set the cup aside, I felt brave enough to proceed. The lamps burned brightly when I entered Jabari's chambers. He was waiting. His gaze found me immediately. I saw his eyes travel from my face to the ends of my hair, then lower still. Desire flickered openly across his features. For the first time in weeks, relief washed over me. Perhaps this would work. Perhaps tonight would mend what had been broken. I had buried the memory, locked it away, forced it into the deepest corner of my mind where it could trouble me no longer. Standing beneath Jabari's gaze, feeling desired once more, I almost believed it. Almost. At first, everything seemed as it should. Jabari looked at me the way he always had, with desire, with affection, with certainty. I had come prepared to give myself fully to my husband. That had been my intention. Yet the moment I stood before him, something inside me faltered. The harder I tried to focus on him, the more another memory pushed its way forward. A memory I had sworn was buried. I hated it. Hated myself for it even more. Jabari noticed my hesitation almost immediately. His smile faded. His patience began to fray. "Eliara," he said quietly, "why do you keep pulling away from me?" I did not know how to answer, because I did not understand it myself. The silence between us stretched. His frustration grew. So did my panic. The man before me was my husband. The man I had chosen. The man I had fought my father to marry. Yet, no matter how fiercely I tried to force my heart into place, something felt terribly wrong. When I asked for a moment, Jabari's expression darkened. He accused me of leading him on, of giving him hope only to retreat again. Weeks of hurt and wounded pride finally spilled out. This was no longer about one failed night, or two. This was every disappointment he had swallowed since our wedding. I tried to explain. The words would not come. I pleaded for him to listen. But anger had already taken hold. For the first time since I had known him, I saw a side of Jabari that frightened me. Not the charming wolf who had courted me. Not the patient man who had showered me with affection. This was a stranger. A proud alpha whose pride had been wounded too many times. My fear finally overcame my shame. I pulled away. He reached for me. I broke free. Then I ran. I fled his chambers and into the corridor beyond. My heart pounding so violently I thought it might burst. The cold air struck my face. My bare feet carried me farther and farther from the room. Only when I reached the far end of the passage did I stop. My hands trembled. My breathing came in ragged bursts. Right there and then, I had to start admitting to myself a terrifying truth. Something was happening to my marriage. Something I did not understand. And I feared it was already too late to stop it.
Chapter 3. I needed to clear my head. Everything had slipped beyond my understanding. All my years of education, all the lessons drilled into me by tutors and elders, had done nothing to prepare me for the mess my life had become. So I walked. At first, I meant only to circle the palace grounds. Then I found myself taking the forest path. The heavier my thoughts became, the faster I moved. I walked as though something pursued me. Perhaps it did. My guilt, my fear, my shame. I did not stop until my feet ached and my legs felt heavy beneath me. Only then did I lift my head and look around. The realization struck immediately. I did not recognize my surroundings. I had wandered deep into the forest, far deeper than I intended. For a brief moment, panic seized me. Then it passed. My father had seen to my training personally. I could hunt, track, build shelter, and find water if I needed to. The wilderness did not frighten me. My own thoughts did. So I sat upon a fallen log and allowed the silence to settle around me. The forest was calm. I was not. The more I thought about the previous night, the worse I felt. I could still see Jabari's face. The anger, the frustration, the look in his eyes. Never in all our years together had I seen him like that. He had always been patient, always gentle, always attentive. The wolf I had seen last night felt like a stranger wearing his face. The memory unsettled me, and beneath that fear lurked something even worse: shame. I felt like a failure, a terrible wife, an embarrassment. Eventually, tears came. I buried my face in my hands and wept. The pressure had become too much. I could not continue living this lie. The truth had to come out. The thought terrified me. How could I tell my husband? How could I explain what had happened? Jabari had done nothing but love me, nothing but care for me. He did not deserve this. Yet after what had happened the night before, I feared his reaction more than ever. Would he hate me? Would he cast me aside? Would he ever look at me the same way again? Could our marriage survive such a confession? I did not know. What I did know was that Jabari despised his elder brother. The entire pack did. I was no different. Thinking of the forgotten heir only deepened my misery. Another curse slipped from my lips. Then another. Childish, perhaps. But it brought me a small measure of satisfaction. At last, I reached a decision. I would tell my mother. Not my husband. Not yet. My mother would know what to do. She always had. By then, darkness had swallowed the forest. The hours slipped away unnoticed. I remained alone with my thoughts, until distant voices finally reached my ears. Torches flickered between the trees. Search parties. Rescue had come. More than once, he interrupted them to ensure they were tending to me properly. Watching him, I felt even worse. I had spent hours fearing his anger. Instead, I was met with concern. Perhaps I had judged him too harshly. Perhaps any husband would have reacted badly after what I had put him through. The guilt became unbearable. Spontaneously, I asked the maids and attendants to leave us. A spontaneity I didn't later know whether to regret or be thankful I had felt. All I knew was that I wanted to be alone. The too many attention was rubbing more salt on my bruised soul. The chamber doors closed. Silence settled between us. Before I could utter a word, Jabari stepped forward. "Eliara, forgive me." The apology stunned me. "I should never have behaved as I did last night," he continued. "I lost control of my temper. Whatever troubles you, I should have listened." His voice carried genuine remorse. That broke something inside me. The guilt was already crushing me. Now it became impossible to bear. The words escaped before I could stop them. "I slept with your brother." Silence. Jabari blinked. For a moment, he simply stared at me, as though he had not heard correctly, or perhaps believed he had misheard. "What?" His voice was little more than a whisper. My hands trembled. My heart pounded so violently I could hear it. This was it. There would be no taking the words back. "I slept with your brother," I repeated, more slowly this time. Each word felt heavier than the last. Confusion lingered on his face. Then realization began to dawn. I watched it happen. Slowly, painfully. The confusion faded. The color drained from his face. His eyes widened. And for the first time since I had known him, I saw genuine shock. I could barely breathe. My body shook so badly that I had to grip the edge of a chair to remain standing. "I swear to you," I whispered, "I do not know how it happened." Jabari said nothing. The silence terrified me more than any shout could have. "I woke beside him," I whispered, "on our wedding morning." Still, Jabari said nothing. I saw the birthmark. That finally drew a reaction. A slight tightening of his jaw. A flicker in his eyes. The mark was not unique. It belonged to the Adewale bloodline. Many members of House Adewale carried it. A half-crescent mark near the breastbone. Some inherited it. Others did not. I never knew whether Jabari possessed one himself or whether it lay hidden beneath a part of his body I had never seen. But I knew the mark. Every noble in Moonfang knew it. Every elder knew it. It was one of those peculiar traits spoken of in stories surrounding the royal bloodline. When I awoke that morning and saw it upon the stranger beside me, I knew only one thing. I had not spent the night alone. My body testified of that. And the man beside me belonged to House Adewale. At first I thought my mind was deceiving me. Then I looked again, and again, until denial became impossible. There were only 2 living sons of the late Alpha. Only 2 men who could have been in that bed. My husband, or his elder brother. My voice shook. "It was not you." The words barely left my lips. Jabari's face became unreliable. For several heartbeats, neither of us spoke. Then I forced myself to say the name I had spent years refusing to utter. "Bansi." The chamber seemed to grow colder. "It was Bansi, your brother I had been with." I kept apologizing. The words poured out of me between sobs. "I am sorry. I did not know. I swear to you, I did not know it was him." Again and again, I repeated myself. Jabari's face remained unreadable. At first, then something darker crept into it. "Enough," he said. His voice was low, dangerously low. "Stop this charade." I stared at him. "It is the truth." "No." The denial came instantly. As though accepting my words was impossible, as though his mind refused to entertain them. I was openly crying now. The confession had broken whatever strength I possessed, so I told him everything. How I had spent weeks drowning in guilt and confusion. How I had finally gathered the courage to tell him. I was so consumed by my misery that I never saw it coming. The blow struck my face with terrifying force. Pain exploded through my head. I stumbled sideways and crashed to the floor. For several moments, I heard nothing but ringing. The world spun. My cheek burned. I had never been struck before. Not once in my life. My father had cherished me. My mother had protected me. My family had treated me like a princess. The shock hurt almost as much as the pain itself. I tried to rise. My limbs refused to obey. Everything felt distant, unreal. Then I forced my eyes open. Jabari was moving toward me. His face no longer resembled the man I had married. His eyes blazed with fury. Not anger, not disappointment. Hatred, raw and undisguised. Somewhere, he had seized a riding whip. I never saw from where. I only saw it in his hand, and I truly believed I was about to die. I had no strength left to run, no strength left to plead. I closed my eyes, waiting, bracing myself. The strike never came. Instead, a torrent of curses filled the chamber. Words I had only ever overheard in drunken taverns and among angry soldiers. Words no one had ever directed at me. Whore, tramp, faithless, liar. Each one struck harder than the slap. I lay there trembling, unable to speak, unable to defend myself, unable to comprehend how my life had unraveled so completely. Me, Eliara Savage, the cherished daughter of House Savage, the pride of my family. Reduced to this, eventually the shouting stopped. Silence followed. Then footsteps, retreating, growing distant. A door slammed. A lock clicked. The sound echoed through the chamber. Moments later, Jabari's voice thundered from the corridor. "No one enters." The order carried through the hall. "No one is permitted inside without my command." Then came silence once more. And for the first time since my wedding day, I found myself truly alone. I remember thinking that this must be what hell felt like. Yet looking back now, I did not know the meaning of suffering. Not then. The worst was still waiting for me. As I lay bleeding months later, fighting for every breath while a terrified woman struggled to save both me and my child, I often wished I had never met either of the Adewale brothers. Yet that misery had not begun here. It had begun in a locked chamber, with a promise and an oath I was desperate enough to swear. After that day, my memories became fractured. I drifted in and out of consciousness. Sometimes I woke, sometimes I slept. Sometimes I was not certain which was which. Nearly 2 days passed that way. Then he finally came. The chamber door opened. Jabari entered carrying a tray. There was soup. There was water. The aroma alone made my body react. I had never realized hunger could hurt. My throat felt like sand. My limbs felt hollow. Jabari sat beside my bed. His face looked weary. For a moment, I thought I saw the man I had fallen in love with. Then he spoke, and I wanted desperately to believe him. He apologized. He said he regretted losing his temper, said he had spent the past day reflecting on his actions, said he had been cruel, said he should never have struck me. Then he did something that nearly broke me. He begged for forgiveness. "Eliara," he said softly, "we can move past this." My eyes filled with tears. He continued. He said he believed me, said none of it had been my fault, said I was decent, noble, kind. Everything he had always known me to be. I wanted to believe every word. Moon goddess, help me. I truly did. My body trembled as the scent of the food reached me. I could barely think beyond my thirst. Then he asked a question. "Have you told anyone?" I shook my head weakly. "No." "Not your mother?" "No." "Not your father?" "No." "Not your friends?" "No." The answers left my lips little stronger than whispers. At the time, I did not think much of the questions. I was too exhausted, too relieved, too desperate for peace. He nodded slowly. Then he offered me a bargain. "We can put everything behind us," he said. "We can start again." Hope surged through me. I agreed before he even finished speaking. Yes. The word escaped instantly. I would have agreed to almost anything. Then came the condition. No one could ever know. No council, no elders, no family, no friends, no one. This secret would die with us. A mate's secret. Our secret. As if he cared, he made me understand what would happen if the truth reached the pack. The scandal alone would destroy my family. My mother and father disgraced. House Savage would become the subject of endless whispers and ridicule. The soup remained beyond my grasp. Jabari never offered either to me, never helped me sit up, never moved the tray closer. At the time, I was too weak to question it, too desperate to notice. So I swore the oath, and the moment I did, the smile that touched Jabari's face chilled me more than his anger ever had. The oath barely left my lips before Jabari rose to his feet. For a long moment, he simply stood there looking at me. I did not like that look. There was nothing openly threatening about it. No anger, no shouting, no rage. Yet it unsettled me far more than his temper had. I opened my mouth. "Jabari?" The words died in my throat. Something in his eyes stopped me. I had wanted to tell him I still loved him. Despite everything, I wanted our marriage to survive. But suddenly, I was no longer certain he wished to hear such things. At length, he nodded. "Good," he said quietly. Just one word. "Good." Then he walked to the door. Before leaving, he summoned the maids. "See to your Luna." The command was calm. almost gentle. Then he left. The chamber door closed behind him. I stared after him, confused, uneasy. For the first time since our courtship began, I found myself wondering whether I truly knew the man I had married. Had he always been this way? Had I simply failed to see it? Or had something changed? As the maids entered and began tending to me, I could not stop thinking about that final look. It lingered, clung to me, followed me. I tried to name what I had seen. Contempt? Disgust? Hatred? I could not tell. Such emotions were foreign to me. I had grown up loved, cherished by my parents, protected by my family, admired by friends, even envied by rivals. Love was a language I understood. That look was not. Whatever lay hidden behind Jabari's eyes felt layered, complicated, dark, and despite his calm expression, I could not shake the feeling that something terrible had shifted between us. The maids cleaned me, fed me, wrapped me in fresh blankets. Eventually, exhaustion claimed me. I slept. 2 mornings later, sunlight filled the chamber. I should be feeling relieved. Surely 2 days of rest and food would have restored my strength. Instead, the moment I tried to sit up, weakness swept through me. My limbs felt heavier than before. My head swam. A strange chill lingered beneath my skin. I sank back against the pillows, breathing hard. That was not right. I should have been recovering, not growing weaker. I called for the healer. This was why I said my misery was only beginning. The old woman examined me, then smiled. "Congratulations, my Luna." My stomach tightened. "You are 4 weeks gone." The world stopped. 4 weeks. Moon goddess, help me. Hell had just opened its doors, and it was welcoming me inside. Chapter 4. Our marriage soon learned to wear 2 faces. Before the pack, we remained flawless. At feasts, Jabari held my hand. At council gatherings, he addressed me with warmth. During celebrations, he smiled often enough to silence suspicion. Most wolves saw nothing wrong, but those who had watched our courtship closely began to notice the change. His smiles shortened, his laughter thinned. He no longer sought me with the eagerness he once had. When we stood together, an unseen distance stood between us. Within the palace walls, I became cautious. I measured my words, watched his moods, and learned the quiet signs of his temper. The man who once hated being away from me now vanished for hours without explanation, sometimes days. Whenever I tried to speak of our troubles, Jabari dismissed them with a smile. And because I loved him, I tried to believe that smile. But love does not blind the heart forever. Sooner or later, even the most devoted wife notices when her husband is becoming a stranger. Through it all, I judged myself guilty. So when Jabari treated me cruelly, some broken part of me believed I deserved it. If I wished to survive, if I wished to protect the pup growing quietly inside me, obedience became my safest refuge. So I became docile. I obeyed, lowered my voice, swallowed my pride. The oath bound my tongue, and Jabari never let me forget it. That morning, after the healer gave me the news, I begged her for silence. "Tell no one," I pleaded. The old woman frowned. "Aluna's pregnancy is no small matter." "I know," I whispered, "but I wish to surprise the pack myself." It was a lie. I was afraid. I had no proof that Jabari would harm the child. No proof that he would welcome it either. But my wolf had gone restless inside me, pacing with a fear I could not explain. Something in me knew he would never accept this pup. So I hid the pregnancy as long as I could. Zaina knew. My personal maid discovered it before the second moon had passed. I trusted her more than most, but trust had become dangerous in Jabari's palace. The servants obeyed him too quickly, not from devotion, from fear. I saw it in their lowered eyes, and their silence whenever his footsteps approached. So when Zaina learned my secret, fear made me cruel. I pressed a sharp blade to her throat and whispered, "If you speak of this to anyone, I will swear before the council that you betrayed me." Her eyes filled with tears. "My lady, I would never." "Then prove it," I warned. The words tasted like ash. I had never been violent. I had never needed to be. But the palace was teaching me a new language, fear. And for the sake of my child, I learned it quickly. By loose robes, dim corridors, careful silence, and Zaina's help, I hid my pregnancy until the 6th moon of conception. This is the right place to insert one of those reflective audience hooks. We don't want many of them, just enough to make the audience feel Eliara is confiding in them. I'd tighten it like this. 2 days after swearing that cursed oath, I learned I was carrying a child. For a brief while, I convinced myself the news might somehow heal my marriage. How foolish I was. The palace returned to its usual rhythm. The shouting stopped. The locked doors disappeared. Servants moved freely through the halls once more. I mistook silence for peace. Weeks passed. I tried to believe the past was behind us, but the past refused to stay buried. Every day, I cursed Bansi Adewal. His name, his bloodline, his existence. I prayed never to see him again. Truth be told, I cared little about where he had gone. By then, he had vanished completely from Moonfang, and almost no one seemed to care. Yet I occasionally overheard servants whispering that Jabari still had scouts searching for him. Why, I did not know. At the time, I did not think much of it. Perhaps that was another mistake. Because while the pack forgot Bansi, my body refused to. Now tell me, would you not think yourself cursed if the very man you blamed for your ruin became the one person your body refused to forget? That was my torment. Every night, memories returned uninvited. The muted sound of his breathing, the feel of his presence, the solid strength of him. Moon goddess, forgive me, but a body like his was difficult to forget. I hated myself for noticing. I hated myself even more for remembering. The more fiercely I fought those memories, the stronger they became. More than once, I woke in tears. More than once, I begged the moon goddess to free me from the shame of it. Instead, I found myself craving the very man I blamed for my downfall. Does that make me wicked? For months, I believed it did. I carried Jabari's name. I carried another man's child beneath my heart. Yet somewhere deep inside, my treacherous body longed for the man I had only been with by chance. Or was it fate? If it was fate, then I can only call it a cursed fate. Still, I told myself I could save my marriage. Then one evening, Jabari came to my chambers. I thought he had come as my husband. I was wrong. Even then, I still wanted to save my marriage. Perhaps that makes me a fool. Looking back now, I think it does. I already had doubts about Jabari. The man I had married seemed increasingly different from the man I had courted. Then again, our courtship had been a whirlwind. 3 moons after our first proper outing, we were husband and wife. At the time, it felt like destiny. Now I wondered whether I had mistaken excitement for certainty. Yet I refused to give up. No matter what had happened, we had to move forward. I owed my future that. I wanted to please him. Foolish as it sounds now, I hoped that if I could reach the man I once loved, I might find a soft enough moment to tell him about the child growing in my womb. And so, when Jabari came to me that night, I resolved to stop resisting the future. Even if my heart was troubled, even if my body still carried memories I wished erased, I would be a wife. I would save my marriage. That was the promise I made to myself. Jabari studied me for a long while. I laid silent, patiently, naked on the bed, like a man inspecting something he a merchandise. I endured it, the derogatory look. If this was the price of peace, then I would pay it. But what happened next shattered that illusion. Instead of reaching for me as husband, for reconciliation, he seized my jaw and forced me to look at him. His eyes burned with something I did not yet understand. Tell me where he is. For a moment, I simply stared. Who? His grip tightened. Do not play games with me. Eliara? Then comprehension struck. Bansi. Even here, even now, even after swearing we would leave the past behind us, Jabari still believed I was hiding something. After everything I had suffered trying to save our marriage, he thought I had been lying. That somehow, despite everything, he believed I had knowingly lain with Bansi. That I had deceived him from the very beginning. That I was still lying. That I knew where Bansi was hiding. Worse still, he seemed convinced I had remained in contact with him all this time. In that moment, I realized the oath had never truly been about forgiveness. All he wanted was Bansi. The hurt was so sharp it stole my breath. If a man claims he wishes to save his marriage, Why does he bring another man's name into his wife's chamber? I had no answer then. The truth is, I would not understand the answer for many months. All I knew was that something inside me finally broke, and for the first time, I truly feared my husband. My hands moved before my thoughts could catch up. I shoved him away, snatched up a robe, and wrapped it tightly around myself. Leave. The word came out trembling. I could have endured many things. Awkwardness, disappointment. Perhaps I could even have endured a marriage struggling beneath the weight of old wounds. But this was different. Why would he ask me such a question? The hurt struck deeper than his question. Because at that moment, I understood something terrible. He had never intended to leave the past behind. Never trusted me. Never intended to believe me. Every promise he made after the oath suddenly felt hollow, and I felt like a fool for believing them. Yet here he stood, demanding to know where Bansi was. Hot tears streamed down my face. I turned away. The next instant, pain shot through my scalp. I was yanked backward, forced to face him. Our eyes met, and what I saw there made my blood run cold. Hatred, not anger, not jealousy, not wounded pride. Hatred, pure, undisguised, unhidden. In that moment, everything finally made sense. The unease, the fear, the instinct that had stopped me from telling him about the child. My wolf had sensed what my heart refused to accept. This man was no longer the Jabari I had loved. Perhaps he never had been. His grip tightened. "Be a good girl," he said quietly, "and do your duty as my wife." The words should have sounded familiar. Instead, they felt like a threat. I thought of my father, his objections, his warnings, the arguments I had dismissed. For the first time, I wondered whether he had seen something I had refused to see. I did not speak, but Jabari saw the answer in my eyes. The defiance, the refusal. A strange laugh escaped him. Cold, humorless. "Do not make this difficult for yourself, Eliara." Difficult. As though this were a negotiation. As though I owed him obedience simply because he demanded it. "Tell me, would you not be frightened if the man before you wore the face of your husband but looked at you like a stranger?" Because that was exactly what I felt. Fear. I became afraid of Jabari Adawal. The following morning, a summons arrived. The message was brief. The Alpha wished to see me. By then, I had begun learning that Jabari rarely summoned me for anything pleasant. I arrived at his chambers looking subdued. Inside, however, defiance still burned. I stepped into the chamber and immediately sensed something was wrong. A woman was already there. Not a servant, not a messenger, not a noble seeking audience. A woman, beautifully dressed, perfectly at ease. She lounged near the hearth as though she belonged there. Worse, she was smiling. Not the smile of someone embarrassed to be seen in another woman's husband's chambers. The smile of someone proud of her place there. My stomach tightened. Jabari sat nearby, watching her with an attentiveness I remembered all too well. Once upon a time, that look had belonged to me. The realization stung more than I cared to admit. His gaze shifted to me. "You're here." I bowed my head slightly. "You summoned me." I did. His eyes drifted toward an ornate fan resting beside the wall. "Pick it up." For a moment, I thought I had misheard. The woman laughed softly and stretched lazily across her seat. Jabari did not repeat himself. He did not need to. The command hung in the air between us. Slowly, dread began creeping through me. I looked from the fan to the woman, then back to Jabari. No, surely not. His expression answered before his lips did. "Stand there," he said. "Fan her." The chamber became very quiet. The woman smiled. A slow, satisfied smile. The kind a victor gives a defeated rival. My fingers curled into my palms. I wanted to refuse. Moon goddess, I wanted to. Perhaps Jabari saw it in my eyes, because the warmth vanished from his face. Before I could speak, he crossed the distance between us. The warning that followed needed no repetition, no raised voice, no dramatic threat, just a cold reminder of exactly who held power inside those walls. A moment later, the fan was in my hand. The woman settled back comfortably. Jabari returned. Chapter 5. Over the following moons, I came to understand something terrifying. Jabari's feelings toward Bansi went far beyond rivalry, far beyond resentment. He hated him. The kind of hatred that survives reason. The kind that keeps a man awake at night. The kind that consumes. By then, my maid and the healer had kept my secret faithfully. No one knew about the child. At least, that was what I believed. One evening, Jabari came to my chambers again. His temper was already foul. I had learned to recognize the signs, the sharpness in his voice, the restlessness, the way Bansi's name seemed to poison every conversation. That night, the argument escalated quickly. I do not even remember how it began, only how it ended, with Jabari staring at me as though I were something unpleasant beneath his boot. "You should be grateful," he said. The words caught me off guard. For what? A cruel smile touched his lips. For being alive. The chamber fell silent. I thought I had misheard him. Then he laughed. Not warmly, not kindly. The sound crawled beneath my skin. "I have no more use for you as a wife." Those words struck harder than I expected. "You never were the prize," he continued. "You were simply the means to an end." I could not speak. My mind struggled to make sense of what I was hearing. Then he told me the truth, or part of it. He admitted he had pursued me because of Bansi, because my father wanted me to marry Bansi, because the late Alpha had wanted the same, because taking me for himself had been another victory over his brother, another thing Bansi could never have. Even now, remembering those words makes me sick, not because my heart broke. That had happened long ago, but because I suddenly understood how little my happiness had ever mattered. The conversation ended soon after, yet one sentence lingered, like poison, like a curse. "I have no more use for you." I replayed those words endlessly. If he truly had no use for me, why was I still alive? Tell me, would that question not haunt you too? Because it haunted me, day after day, night after sleepless night. Why keep me? Why not cast me out? Why not send me away? Why not kill me and be rid of me entirely? The more I thought about it, the more frightened I became. There was a reason. There had to be. And whatever that reason was, I feared discovering it. By then, only one thing mattered to me. Not my marriage, not my title, not even my own life. The child, the tiny life growing beneath my heart. I knew, with a certainty that chilled me to my bones, that if Jabari ever discovered the truth, he would not hesitate. Perhaps I was wrong. Perhaps fear had made me irrational. But would you have taken that chance? I would not. So I began thinking about escape. Quietly, carefully, patiently. And by the time Jabari finally discovered my pregnancy, life itself had already lost much of its meaning. The child was all I had left. The child was the only reason I still fought to see another dawn. By then, I had become the pack's favorite piece of gossip. The beautiful Luna everyone once envied had become a shadow of herself. Whispers followed me wherever I went. Not that I went anywhere anymore. I was no longer permitted beyond the palace grounds. At first, I thought it was concern. Then I noticed the guards, the escorts, the eyes that seemed to follow my every movement. I was not being protected. I was being watched. Perhaps you think I should have escaped sooner. I ask myself that same question even now. The answer is simple. There was nowhere to run. And by then, I carried more than my own life. Then the secret came out. I still do not know how. One day, Jabari knew. The next, he was dragging me through the palace corridors. I stumbled more than walked. Servants lowered their heads and pretended not to see. No one intervened. No one dared. He took me straight to the healer. "Get rid of it." The command was cold, matter of fact, as though he were discussing an unwanted animal rather than a child. My child. The healer went pale. "My Alpha. She is too far along." I did not ask for excuses. The old woman swallowed hard. "If the pup dies now, there is a strong chance the Luna dies as well." Silence followed. Jabari stared at me, then at the healer. For several terrifying moments, no one spoke. Finally, he turned away. That was all. No declaration, no mercy, no change of heart, just a decision. And because of that decision, my child lived. For now. That night, I lay awake with my hands over my stomach, whispering prayers of gratitude to every god and ancestor willing to listen. My baby was safe. For now. However, that gave me little or no comfort. This I now know as matter-of-factly. Jabari needed me alive. I understood that much. Why? Are you also thinking why? But would he need the child alive as well? That question followed me into every waking hour, and no matter how many times I asked it, the answer never came. I had exhausted every path I could think of, every servant, every guard, every attendant, every messenger. None were willing to carry a secret message for me. Some refused politely. Most refused fearfully. A few looked as though I had asked them to sign their own death warrants. That was when I finally understood how deeply Jabari's shadow stretched across the palace. One evening, while helping me prepare for bed, Zaina lowered her voice. "My lady, there is one person in this palace who does not fear the Alpha." My head snapped toward her. "What?" She glanced nervously toward the door before continuing. "There is one person who does not answer to him." Hope flared inside me so suddenly it hurt. "Who?" Zaina hesitated. Then she told me. "Moon Goddess." How I tried to reach her after that. I needed help. I needed my father. Funny, is it not? How people can stand so close and yet be impossibly far away. My father was one of the kingmakers, the eldest among them, a respected elder whose voice carried weight throughout Moonfang. He walked the palace grounds often. Several times I thought I glimpsed his silhouette from the fourth-story window of my chambers. Several times I pressed myself against the glass, praying he would look up. He never did. Or perhaps he simply never saw me. My life had become one of those old stories told to pups around winter fires. The forgotten princess locked away in a tower. Twice during those early moons, I attended council gatherings with my brother present. I remember seeing Kelchi. I remember wanting to run to him. Instead, I smiled, spoke when spoken to, pretended everything was well, just as I had been instructed. Now even that privilege was gone. As my belly grew, I was no longer permitted to leave my chambers. Why? Why else? So no one would know I was carrying a child. So no one would know I was carrying a child. So no one would know I was carrying a child. I was permitted to receive letters, only those Jabari approved, yet I was never allowed to send any. The days became longer. The nights became harder. My feet swelled. My back ached. Some mornings it hurt simply to rise from bed. Still, I endured, because giving up was not an option. Tell me, if your life no longer belonged to you, would you not live for the one life you could still save? That was what kept me going. Not hope, not courage. The child was all that remained. And yet, through all of it, one contradiction continued to torment me. I hated Bansi Adawal, or at least I told myself I did. Every waking hour, I blamed him for my misery. Yet every night, he still appeared in my dreams. Not as the villain who ruined my life. Not as the forgotten prince everyone mocked. But as the man my body refused to forget. It infuriated me. If I had possessed a blade and found him standing before me that day, I might have buried it in his throat. Or perhaps, I only wanted to believe I would. Because by then, I was no longer certain of anything. Chapter 6. Most nights, I sat beside the window until sleep finally claimed me. What else was there to do? Life continued beyond my chamber walls. I could hear it, the distant music from feasts, the laughter of nobles drifting upward from moonlit courtyards, the occasional roar of celebration after a successful hunt. Council sessions still convened, servants still hurried through the corridors. The kingdom continued breathing while my own world remained trapped inside four walls. I learnt every corner of that chamber, every carving, every crack in the stone, every creak in the floorboards. The room itself was enormous, far too grand for someone who was no longer allowed to leave it. Dark polished wood lined the walls, tall windows overlooked the palace grounds. A large hearth occupied one side of the room, while shelves filled with old books stood on another. The furnishings were elegant, but unlike the rest of the palace, little had been altered. It felt preserved, almost untouched. I eventually learned why. The chambers had once belonged to Bansi's mother. After her death, the rooms had been sealed. No servant entered unless necessary. No noble dared claim them. For years, only one person ever came there, Bansi. Even after becoming an adult, he was said to visit the chambers often, sometimes spending entire afternoons there alone. At the time, I thought little of it. I had greater concerns. Yet looking back now, I wonder if that should have been my first warning. What fascinated me most was a tiny flaw near the eastern window, a small gap where the wooden lattice joined the stone wall, no larger than the width of a finger. Most people would never have noticed it. I noticed everything. Through that opening, I could see a narrow slice of the world below, part of the courtyard, a section of the garden path, the corner of the training grounds. It was not much, yet that tiny opening became precious to me. Many nights, I pressed my eye against it and watched life continue beyond my prison. And in those moments, I often wondered which of us was truly missing, Bansi or me. I was pressed against the window when I heard it, a sound so unusual that it instantly pulled me from my thoughts. A sharp whistle, low, fast, the sound of something cutting through the air with terrifying precision. Before I could react, a black-fletched arrow burst through the tiny gap. The shaft spun once, twice. Its steel tip sliced through one of the hanging curtains before striking the stone wall with a violent crack. I screamed. My heart nearly stopped. For several moments, I could do nothing but stare. The arrow quivered where it had embedded itself into the wall. Who would fire an arrow into the Luna's chambers, and from where? I was 4 stories above the ground. The shot should have been impossible. Slowly, I approached. Then I noticed it. Something had been attached to the shaft, a small roll of pale bark parchment. My breath caught. Moon Goddess. My hands shook as I untied it. The writing material was thin and flexible, made from treated river bark. Once read, it could be crushed into pulp with a single squeeze and scattered like dust, perfect for secret messages. My eyes immediately fell upon the insignia pressed into the corner, the savage crest, my family's crest. For a moment, I simply stared. Then hope exploded inside my chest. I almost laughed. I almost cried. I think I nearly did both. After moons of isolation, after moons of fear, someone had finally reached me. My father, my family. Someone had not forgotten me. The message itself was painfully brief. A date, a time, nothing more. No names, no explanations, no instructions. Yet it was enough, more than enough. My rescue had begun. I crushed the bark parchment immediately. The material broke apart exactly as intended. Within seconds, nothing remained but tiny flakes scattered into the fire. Only then did I return to the window. I pressed myself against the lattice and searched the grounds below. My eyes swept across rooftops, towers, courtyards, trees, the outer walls, anywhere. Where had the arrow come from? The shot had been extraordinary. No ordinary archer could have threaded an arrow through an opening barely wider than a hand from 4 stories below. Whoever had fired it possessed frightening skill, or perhaps something more. I searched until darkness swallowed the grounds. Yet I found nothing. No movement, no figure, no clue. Only the lingering certainty that somewhere beyond those walls, help was finally coming. And for the first time in many moons, I dared to hope. The following morning, Jabari came to see me. That alone was unusual. He rarely visited unless he wanted something. The moment I saw his face, unease settled over me. He closed the door behind him. For several moments, he simply stood there, watching me. Then he spoke. "Your father is dead." The words struck so suddenly that I did not understand them. "What? Lord Chaik is dead." I stared at him, waiting for the rest, waiting for him to correct himself, waiting for him to tell me I had misheard. Instead, he calmly explained that my father had gone hunting the previous night. The party returned. My father did not. A search had been organized. According to Jabari, only part of his remains had been recovered. The rest had never been found. I do not remember falling. I only remember the sound that escaped me. A scream, then another, and another. I wept. I wailed. I begged the Moon Goddess to wake me from the nightmare. Through it all, Jabari barely reacted. No comfort, no sympathy, no grief, nothing. He simply watched. Perhaps that was the moment I became certain. My father had not died. My father had been killed, assassinated. The question that tormented me was why? Had my father discovered something? Had Jabari somehow discovered the message? Even now, I do not know. I only know that despair swallowed me whole. The little hope I had been clinging to died with my father. Days blurred into weeks. Weeks blurred into moons. I lost track of time. When you are locked away long enough, the days stop feeling different from one another. Only my body reminded me that time was passing. My belly had grown heavy. The aches had worsened. The healers spoke cautiously, but I understood what they meant. My birthing moon was approaching. Still, no news came. Not about my mother, not about Kelchi, not about my family. Nothing. At last I sent word that I wished to see Jabari. The request was ignored. I sent another, then another. Many days passed before he finally appeared. By then, my patience had long since shattered. I demanded answers. About my father, about my mother, about my family. I begged him to allow me to send a letter, one message, one chance to know whether they were safe. He refused, coldly, completely. I screamed at him. I pleaded. I cried. I even humbled myself. Nothing moved him. Then, as though my request itself had offended him, he doubled the guards outside my chambers. Tell me, what would you have thought? Because by then, I no longer believed I was being protected. I was being contained. And whatever was waiting for me beyond those doors, Jabari was determined to face it before I ever could. This is a good contemplation scene. The tension comes from Eliara realizing that every option is dangerous. The appointed date was fast approaching. 3 days. Only 3 days remained. I sat beside the window, staring through the tiny gap in the lattice, thinking until my head hurt. What was I supposed to do? Should I still try? My father was dead. Perhaps because of that message. Perhaps because he had tried to reach me. If I went to the meeting place, would I simply be leading more people to their deaths? That thought alone nearly made me abandon the plan. Yet if I remained, I lowered my hand to my stomach. The child shifted beneath my palm. A small movement, a reminder, a reason. Tell me, what would you have done? Stay and hope for mercy from a man who had shown none? Or run toward an uncertain future? Neither path offered safety. If I escaped, where would I go? Jabari ruled Moonfang. His reach stretched far beyond the palace walls. How long could a heavily pregnant woman remain hidden? A day? A week? A moon? And what of my family? Would my escape place them in danger? Would my mother suffer for my actions? Would Kelechi? The questions circled endlessly inside my head. Then there was another problem. How was I supposed to reach the meeting place at all? I was watched constantly. The guards had doubled. The servants reported everything. Even walking through the palace required permission. And I was no longer the swift-footed woman I once was. My body had grown heavy. Every movement reminded me that my birthing moon was near. Yet remaining was no longer an option. Not after everything I had seen. Not after everything I had learned. Because there was one thing I knew with absolute certainty. Jabari would never allow this child to live. Perhaps you think fear clouded my judgment. Perhaps it did. But by then, I knew my husband better than I wished to. He never hid his hatred for the child's father. On that matter, strangely enough, we had once shared the same opinion. Nor did he bother hiding his contempt for me. And still, one question continued to haunt me. Why did he need me alive? The answer remained beyond my reach. Yet whatever purpose he had for me, I feared discovering it more with each passing day. Outside my window, the kingdom slept. Inside my chamber, I sat alone. 3 days remained. 3 days to make a choice that would decide not only my fate, but my child's as well. Chapter 7. Do you remember the woman Zaina told me about? The one person in the palace who did not live in fear of Jabari. The one person who remained there because she chose to. Well, one evening, Zaina brought news. I have arranged for her to see you. For a moment, I simply stared. Then hope stirred inside me so suddenly it hurt. By then, my situation had become one of the palace's many mysteries. Servants whispered, guards speculated. Even some nobles wondered. No one could understand why the Alpha treated his Luna the way he treated me. It was strange, unnatural, yet I never explained. What good would that have done? The fewer people who knew, the safer they remained. I seized Zaina's hands. Thank you. Her eyes widened immediately. She glanced toward the door and gently freed herself. I did nothing, my lady. The words were spoken so quickly, they almost made me smile. I understood. If word reached Jabari that she had helped me, her fate would be sealed. So I merely nodded. From that moment onward, All I could do was wait. Wait and pray. Pray the woman arrived before my child did. Pray she arrived before the appointed date. Pray fate had not already decided against me. The waiting nearly drove me mad. Then she came. At first glance, she was not what I expected. There was nothing remarkable about her appearance. No jewels, no grand title, no display of power. Yet she carried herself with a confidence I had not seen in many moons. The confidence of someone who feared no one, not even an alpha. After exchanging formal greetings, I wasted no time. I need your help. She remained silent, so I told her everything that mattered. Not the oath, not Bansi, not my marriage, only what was necessary. I told her about the message, the date, the location, the meeting I desperately needed to reach. When I finished, she shook her head. Slowly, almost sadly. "My lady," she said, "have you looked at yourself recently?" My hand instinctively moved to my swollen stomach. "You can barely walk the length of this chamber without tiring." The words stung because they were true. She continued, "That location is several hours away." My heart sank. "And there is something else." "What?" Her eyes narrowed. "Nothing exists there." I blinked. "What do you mean?" "No settlements, no trading post, no watchtower, no farms, no villages." She paused. "It is a dead end." The room suddenly felt colder. "Then who am I supposed to meet there?" She gave a small shrug. "I was hoping you would tell me." And that was when the tears came. Because I did not know. Moon Goddess, help me. I truly did not know. The man who sent the message was dead. My father was gone. The only person who could explain it had already been buried. Or, what remained of him, had. I buried my face in my hands. "I don't know," I whispered. For the first time in many days, I allowed myself to cry openly. "I don't know anything anymore." The woman said nothing. Perhaps there was nothing to say. After a while, I lifted my head. "Even if not there." My voice trembled. "Anywhere away from here would do." Because that was the truth. The location no longer mattered. The message no longer mattered. The mystery no longer mattered. I simply needed to escape. Before Jabari discovered whatever secret still kept me alive. Before my child entered a world where his own father wished him dead. And before the last door remaining to me finally closed forever. "Do you still intend to go?" The question lingered between us. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. My eyes drifted toward the window, toward the forest beyond the palace walls, toward freedom. Or perhaps death. At that point, I no longer knew the difference. "My father is dead," I whispered. The words still felt unreal. If that message truly came from him, then what is waiting for me there now? The woman remained silent. I laughed bitterly. "Does this mean all hope is lost?" She studied me carefully before answering. "I do not think you would make it far in your condition." Her eyes dropped to my swollen stomach. "But I will help you try." Those words alone nearly brought me to tears. She moved closer and lowered her voice. "If we do this, we leave during the day." "Daylight?" She nodded. "The palace is busiest then. Servants moving everywhere. Nobles coming and going. Council in session. Fewer eyes notice a single face in a crowd." I listened carefully. "The important thing is not getting caught. The appointed date was tomorrow. 1 day away. One final day." Strangely, everything appeared normal. Jabari had shown no sign of suspicion. He had not visited. Neither had Trundle. The guards remained at their posts. The servants followed their routines. Nothing seemed different, which somehow frightened me even more. The next day arrived. I was halfway through my midday meal when the woman entered unexpectedly. She closed the door behind her, quickly, quietly. Then she signaled for silence. Something was wrong. My heart immediately began pounding. "We planned for tomorrow," I whispered. She shook her head. "Plans have changed." "What happened?" "The council is handling a difficult matter. Most of the palace's attention is there." I frowned. "And?" "The Alpha rode out this morning." My pulse quickened. "He is investigating a rogue attack near the eastern borders." Hope flickered. "He won't be back today." She hesitated, then shook her head. "Not until tomorrow." My breath caught. Tomorrow. He would be gone overnight. A strange expression crossed her face, almost pity. "Your husband has other matters to attend to." I did not understand her meaning, nor did I care. Jabari's whereabouts mattered little to me now. I had endured enough. Enough humiliation. Enough isolation. Enough fear. I had survived months of watching my dignity stripped away piece by piece. All for one reason. The child. Everything came back to the child. Unexpectedly, my courage faltered. The woman noticed immediately. Her eyes narrowed. "You are hesitating." I looked down at my stomach. So large, so heavy, so close to birth. The woman followed my gaze. Then she asked quietly, "Would you rather stay?" The question struck me like a slap. Stay? Stay and wait? Stay and trust Jabari with my child's life? Stay and hope mercy suddenly grew inside a man who had shown me none? My hands immediately found my stomach. The tiny life beneath my palm shifted. A small movement, a reminder, a reason. Suddenly, everything became clear. I seized the woman's hands. "I'm ready." My voice shook, but not from fear, from certainty. "My child cannot be born in this palace." The words came harder now, stronger. "If I must die, then let it be beneath the open sky." Tears filled my eyes. "But I will not stay here and watch someone snuff the life from my child." The room fell silent. Perhaps you think I was brave. I was not. I was terrified. Terrified of the journey. Terrified of being caught. Terrified of what waited beyond those walls. But a mother will endure fears she would never endure for herself. By then, my own life mattered very little. The child mattered. The child was everything. And for the first time in many moons, I chose hope over fear. Whatever awaited me beyond those palace walls, I would face it. We left within the hour. The woman moved quickly. Too quickly for someone unfamiliar with the palace. That was when I realized she knew secrets most wolves did not. Hidden passages, forgotten corridors, servants' tunnels concealed behind tapestries and stone panels. Passageways built generations ago for emergencies and sieges. We avoided the main halls entirely. Twice we stopped as guards passed overhead. Once we stood motionless in darkness while voices echoed so close I could hear armor brushing against stone. My heart pounded so loudly I feared they would hear it. Yet somehow, we remained unseen. Moon Goddess was watching over us. Or perhaps my father still was. At last we emerged beyond the palace walls, through an abandoned storage cellar, hidden beneath an old watchtower. The moment fresh air touched my face, I nearly wept. Freedom. I had dreamed of that moment for months. Yet standing outside the palace did not bring peace, only fear. Because now there was nothing between me and the world. Nothing between me and whatever awaited us. The rendezvous lay near the old Freeland crossing, a forgotten stretch of wilderness, close to the edge of Moonfang territory. Nearly a full day's journey on foot. Perhaps less for a healthy wolf. For me it felt impossible. I could not shift. My body was too weak, too heavy, too close to birth. Months of confinement had stolen my strength. We carried little, a small satchel of dried meat, a water skin, a thick cloak, nothing more. Anything heavier would slow us down. The woman offered me her arm as we began walking. The first few hours were not difficult. Hope carried me. Hope and desperation. I prayed with every step. I prayed for my child, prayed for my mother, prayed for Kelchi, prayed that my father's sacrifice had not been in vain. Yet doubt walked beside me. Would you have left if you were in my shoes? Knowing your father might have died because of this message? Knowing you could be walking into a trap? Because those thoughts haunted every step. By midday, my back ached. By afternoon, my legs trembled. By evening, every breath felt heavier than the last. The child seemed to weigh twice as much. My feet had swollen badly. Several times I stumbled. Several times the woman had to catch me. Still I refused to stop. Fear drove me forward. Fear for my child. Fear of what would happen if Jabari discovered I was gone. The sun slowly descended behind the trees. The shadows lengthened. The forest grew quieter. And with every step, a single question repeated itself inside my mind. Would we make it? Or had we already come too far to turn back, and not far enough to survive? Chapter 8. Contrary to my fears, we made remarkable progress. In fact, by the second day, I began to believe we might actually succeed. The rendezvous point was still ahead, but it no longer felt impossible. Perhaps leaving a day early had saved us. Perhaps fate had finally decided to show me mercy. Or perhaps Jabari's absence had given us the head start we desperately needed. I did not need to ask where he was. I thought I knew, most likely in the arms of another woman. The thought no longer hurt the way it once had. Strange, isn't it? There was a time I would have wept over such things. Now I felt nothing. Nothing but bitterness. Nothing but anger. Whatever love I once carried for Jabari had long since been buried beneath humiliation, fear, and disappointment. If anything remained, I could no longer find it. As for Bansi, Moon Goddess help me. Even my feelings toward him had become tangled beyond reason. I blamed him. I hated him. I wished I had never laid eyes on him. Yet without him, I would never have seen the true face of the man I married. And without him, the child beneath my heart would not exist. Tell me, what does one do with emotions like that? Because I never found the answer. The woman guided our journey expertly, far better than any tracker I had ever known. She insisted we conceal our trail. Every stream we crossed, she used to break our scent. Every resting place was carefully chosen. Branches were brushed away, footprints disturbed, paths abandoned midway. Several times she doubled back for no reason I could see. Only later did I understand. She was making us difficult to follow, very difficult. The forest seemed to obey her, or perhaps she simply knew it that well. By late afternoon, my body began failing me. My pace slowed. My breathing grew labored. Every step demanded effort. The child felt heavier than ever. Still, I pushed forward. The rendezvous point was close. I could feel it. The woman believed we would reach it before nightfall. Then the pain came. I froze. One hand flew to my stomach. A sharp cramp twisted through me. Then another. The woman turned immediately. "What is it?" I tried answering. Another wave stole my breath. Her face changed instantly. No, I already knew. Mothers know. The child was coming. Labor had begun. Not tomorrow, not next week. Now, of all the cursed places, of all the cursed times, now. The woman looked around frantically. The surrounding wilderness offered nothing. No village, no cabin, no shepherd's hut, no travelers, nothing. The rendezvous location had always been a dead end, a forgotten stretch of wilderness near the borderlands. No one lived there. No one passed through. No help was coming. Another contraction struck, harder this time. I nearly collapsed. The woman caught me before I hit the ground. "We're almost there," she said. Almost. I wanted to laugh or cry. What use was almost there when there was nowhere there to begin with? Yet we kept moving. One painful step, then another. The fading light stretched long shadows across the forest floor. The rendezvous point lay somewhere ahead. Labor was growing stronger. Night was approaching. And for the first time since escaping the palace, a terrible thought entered my mind. What if we had come all this way, only to die here? This is your opening retrospective scene, catching up with the beginning of the story. The emotional weight should be on a mother choosing her child over herself, not on long labor details. Keep it tight, emotional, and relentless. We found shelter beneath an outcropping of stone, hidden deep within the forest. By then, labor had already begun. What followed was a nightmare. The child refused to come. One day passed, then another. The pain never stopped. My body had already been weakened by moons of confinement, fear, and poor health. Now it was failing me completely. Had Dora not been there, I would have died long before the second night. She gathered herbs, prepared broths, forced water between my lips, cooled my fever, held me together when every part of me was breaking apart. What amazed me most was that she never asked questions. Not once. Not why I was fleeing. Not why I feared my husband. Not why I believed my child was in danger. She simply helped. I had never encountered such selflessness before. The storms came on the second night. Rain hammered the forest. Wind howled through the trees. The cold crept into my bones. I drifted in and out of consciousness. Sometimes I saw my mother. Sometimes my father. Sometimes I heard voices that were not there. Dora's voice became my anchor. Stay with me, Eliara. Open your eyes. You cannot leave yet. At one point, I felt her shaking me. You must fight. I barely heard her. Then she said something that pierced the fog. Your father would not have wanted this. I forced my eyes open. She looked exhausted. More exhausted than I felt. Do not let Lord Chike's sacrifice be wasted. I stared at her. What sacrifice? For the first time, uncertainty crossed her face. Then she sighed. Jabari wanted your father's support. Her voice was careful. As eldest among the kingmakers, his support carried tremendous weight. Another contraction tore through me. Dora waited until it passed. Your father stood between Jabari and many things he wanted. Then it came to me. Like lightning. The answer. The reason I had been kept alive. Not because Jabari loved me. Not because he feared scandal. Not because of mercy. I was a bridge. A connection to my father. A useful piece on his board. Nothing more. By then, I knew I was dying. Perhaps Dora knew it too. So I finally broke my oath. The oath I had guarded through humiliation, through fear, through suffering. Dora, my voice barely existed. She leaned closer. I grabbed her wrist. The child, save your strength. No. I tightened my grip. The child is not Jabari's. Silence. For a moment, only the storm spoke. Then I whispered the name. Bansi. Dora's eyes widened. I continued before courage failed me. If I die, you are not dying. If I die, I repeated. Promise me. Tears filled my eyes. Take him to my mother. Promise me, Jabari will kill him. The words came harder now. He will kill my child. Dora clasped my hands. You will tell your mother yourself. I shook my head. We both knew the truth. The child was coming. I was not leaving. Promise me? At last, she nodded. I promise. Relief washed through me. For the first time in many moons, I felt peace. The child came shortly before dawn. His cry filled the shelter. Strong, defiant, alive. Moon goddess, he looked exactly like Bansi. Exactly. The same dark hair, the same features, the same jaw, even the same tiny crescent-shaped birthmark beneath his collarbone. The mark carried by generations of the Adewale bloodline. And there was something else. His eyes. Newborn eyes should not have looked that way. For a brief moment, they flashed with an unnatural silver-gold glow. Ancient, aware, wrong. Or perhaps wonderfully right. Even Dora saw it. The child was special. There was no hiding whose son he was. No hiding what he was. The meeting time had passed. There was no more time. She had failed to meet up at the agreed time and location. No more choices. Dora wrapped the child tightly. Tears streamed down her face. I will come back for you. I smiled weakly. We both knew she would not, and she knew I did not expect her to. Go. She hesitated. Go. At last she turned and disappeared into the forest carrying my son. My son, the last piece of me. The only thing I had done right. The storm faded. The pain faded. Everything began fading. And as darkness closed around me, my final prayer was not for myself. It was for the child. Run, my son. Run far. Run fast. And never let Jabari Adewale find you. As death gradually embraced me, I finally understood. Sometimes our lives are shaped not by our choices alone, but by battles we never knew were being fought around us. My father was dead. My marriage was ruined. And now my own life was ending. Yet strangely enough, I was grateful for one thing. I was not dying in Jabari's palace. My son was gone. Safe. At least I prayed he was. I lifted my eyes to the heavens. Moon goddess, let my son live. My breath grew shallow. My vision dimmed. And as darkness closed in, my thoughts returned to him. As much as I wanted to curse him, I could not. Because without him, my son would never have existed. I prayed my child would be safe. I thanked the moon my suffering had finally ended. How little she knew. Her story ended there, but theirs was only beginning. So how was it that the man who claimed her on her wedding bed was not her husband, but the brother everyone despised? If Eliara's story broke your heart, stirred your anger, or kept you hoping against hope for a better fate, don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and recommend this story to fellow alpha romance lovers. And if you want to experience the complete journey in paperback, you can grab your copy on Amazon KDP. The link to the book page is waiting for you in this video's description. If you're still wondering whether Prince Bansi was truly the villain everyone believed him to be, then this story is far from over. Come back for more unforgettable tales from Keone's dark alpha romance stories, where forgotten heirs rise, dangerous secrets unravel, cruel destinies collide, and love is tested beneath the gaze of the moon goddess. Until our paths cross again, trust no prophecy, fear hidden truths, and remember, the wolf everyone despises may be the one worth believing.